You make a very good point there because our bodies are speaking to us all the time, internally, externally, as you are mentioning, and we're not listening. I would love my doctor to say, okay, you're going to go to physiotherapy. If it's that painful, I'll give you something temporary for the pain. But I want you to work on why you're having this pain, what's holding you back, what trauma is going on, what are you afraid of, what's working and not working in your life. And I want you to go see Tammy Cho. Hello, everyone. I have a treat for you. Again, this is one of my clients. She's a professional. This is Tammy Cho, and she's a former patient care leader turned international best-selling author and self-love and energy leadership. Hang on to those two words because she's an energy leadership mentor specializing in face and body analysis, human design, and NLP, neuro-linguistic programming for those who don't know. It is a type of psychology, sort of under that umbrella. She helps impact-driven entrepreneurs and leaders overcome imposter syndrome. I can't tell you how many times my clients have said that to me, and fall in love with their authentic self so they can break through the scale that seems to lead and thrive uh, for their next level of purpose and driven impact. So basically, we're going to dive deep into if you want to be successful, if you want to be a leader, whether you're an author, an entrepreneur, or a mom, or just somebody who just wants to live their life in a leadership way. This is a very unique perspective I think is going to help give you answers. But also, you may want to contact her after this is done because she will be able to, Tammy is will be able to help you with this. She's been featured on Positive Impact TV, Brains Magazine, and major platforms like Fox, CBS, NBC, and AP News. She's also the host of Authentic Leaders Rising podcast. Welcome, Tammy, to the show.
Thanks so much for having me here, Holly. And yes, I've been blessed with Holly's gifts as well, and we have a lot in common and soul alignment and things like that. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, and I have seen what you have been through trying to get from mainstream uh, job that you had in the healthcare system. And I'm wondering if you could share with us what your story is.
Yeah, I love to, Holly. I had worked 20 years as a nurse, and somewhere in that journey, I and essentially, just got off the phone with a patient, and I started having chest pain and heart palpitations that like basically radiated up my jaw and down my arm, like classic heart attack symptoms. And I was, yeah, really struggling to breathe. And I remember this metallic taste of fear in my mouth at that moment. And what happened is I ended up being wheeled off to emergency in front of everyone at work. And yeah, that was scary. And I was up to that point, I knew I wasn't, doing well. I was losing my ability to concentrate. Essentially had a really bad panic attack, which really felt like a heart attack. And that, slowed me down, Holly, in many ways. I got that doctor's note even to take time off, and I intellectually knew what I needed to do, but I couldn't emotionally let go. And that was a big piece for me. And like I said, it slowed me down, but really, it wasn't until my daughter was 6 months old and she was lying there on one of those baby Einstein mats and she was intentionally hitting one of those toys for the first time. And if it wasn't for this community nurse that was sitting next to me, saying, "Did you see that?" I sat there and I was so disconnected, and I just like, yeah, kids do that. I just couldn't feel anything for my own daughter, and that was a big piece of what woke me up. That I, was basically so in a box of I couldn't feel my life. I didn't know who I was. You know, um, Trauma was there because my mom left me when I was a baby. And I, wasn't physically abandoning my daughter, but I was emotionally abandoning her. So that's what put a fire under my bum to get out there and do something different with my life, that I wasn't going to be that. And it started me on a journey of, obviously doing the counseling and therapy, but I did personal development, but had invested in courses almost every other, weekend. And I was like, I did NLP. I was really trying to like do all the mindset and master the mind. And you and me know, Holly, that the answer is not usually in the mind. And I actually was ventured into energy healing even, and this is did a lot of bioenergy healing, became a shaman, a Reiki, and all these various modalities. And I remember the moment where I would exchange healings with someone, and when I stopped doing it, I still felt all the depression and anxiety that was underneath. And so I'm a truth seeker, Holly. So I kept on going to really look at, what is the next evolution? What am I missing? And I pulled into my life 4 years of emotional and spiritual healing. And I came across something called psychosomatic therapy, which is essentially the study of the body, mind, heart, soul together. Like prior to that, I was addressing myself in silo in boxes and not bringing it together. And psychosomatic therapy brought it together. And it's also something that shows us how this is physically expressed on our face and body. And back then, I was essentially reaching out for all this love and connection, but a part of my body showed me how I was pushing it away. So it's such a beautiful, tangible piece that, now I use to support my clients to really see what they may not be aware of, or to really see this inner outer disconnect within themselves. And this is a big part of why I do what I do, to really, because when I was burning out, I wasn't leading my energy, and when I was navigating through all these pieces, I was doing it in a way that was all chopped up. And so this piece about self-love and energy leadership is so crucial on a lot of people, for a lot of people I work with, and to really do this in a more conscious way.
Okay, so the first thing I want to mention to you is in sessions that we've had together, we've been looking at what are we going to call it? What is the name going to be? What are we going to label this? And I don't remember you ever saying energy leadership before. You might have, but I'm not recalling that. But that's really hitting home for me right now. I love that ideal of energy leadership. And I think a lot of people can relate to checking out, of life, just going through the motions day by day. And I agree with you. It's always based on some sort of trauma. I mean, Gabor Mate talks about when the body speaks and your body was like yelling at you very loudly that it wanted to shift. It wanted to change from the experience that you were having with your work and with your trauma. What exactly is facial energy analysis?
Yeah, I call it face and body analysis. Essentially, your body doesn't lie, it speaks truth. And what I do is I invite, my clients to send me photos, and essentially every, like your eyes, your nose, your ears, like the distance of your top to bottom lip, like all these things speak about your internal environment, your thoughts, your emotional history, places where there are maybe energy blocks within yourself. It speaks about your personality, your strengths, your challenges. And really, the inner world is our left side of our face. So if you'll all put your hand on your left side of your face, this is your inner world. And the right side is our public face, what we show the world. And although when we look at a mirror, right, we're not like, looking at with this lens, obviously, right? But often we're not really seeing ourselves. We're looking, putting on makeup maybe to look good for the day or whatever that is, right? And it actually speaks a lot to our alignment within ourselves. Because often there's something I do where I do a face split, and I put two left sides of the face together and then
We've
two
seen
right
that
sides.
before, yeah. And it looks like two different
Yeah.
people.
Yes, and this is it. Like this is, I speak about energy leadership, but I like to call it authentic energy leadership, but that, it's kind of a long word. But
Yeah.
it's like it really, like, to be in energy alignment has a lot to allowing yourself to fully be who you truly are. And the degree of disconnection within our inner and outer world has a lot to doing with that. It's not that you may not have the success. I have clients that are successful on the outside, yet they feel like something's missing, right? They have all the things. They're like, why am I not happy? And in many ways that was me. because I became a millionaire in my 30s and I was, I felt like I had the career, I had the white picket fence. I still felt unhappy. It wasn't, all these external things. Um, and so, that's why, that's a really big, draw for me, passion for me to really put this message out there about like really being true to yourself, being the authentic leader. And when you allow yourself and give yourself the gift of loving yourself, and this is the truth of who you are, really falling in love with the truth of who you are, that is when we are in full energy alignment. And when we are not being truthful, it's spelled throughout the body. And what I will add to this, Holly, just because we're in the soul work, and I think this is really powerful, is that oftentimes, we don't see that when we're not walking our true soul's purpose.
Hmm.
It affects our body. Actually, I can see if someone is on purpose with their mission, and if they're on direction with their mission by the way they're walking. So I'll get someone to send me a picture of, walking for about a minute, and I can see what patterns they're holding, how they maybe keeping themselves smaller, how they're off or on purpose, and
Wow.
and this is highlighting that when our feet are off direction, for example, that could affect our knees, right? And then it
Wow.
affects our hips, it causes pain. So literally, when it's a alignment between our body, our mind, our emotions, and our soul, physically through the body. And it's time to bring it all together and to really understand ourselves deeper in this way. And to, what I've seen is that when we align all this together, deeper transformation happens. Um, there's a, it's like trying to do mindset work, but and then your body is like, shoulders are rolled over. And so you're not actually open to receiving, and so it's like
Right.
self-sabotage is reinforcing. And so, yeah, I just really want to put this out there to like bring ourselves back to our body, and to use that as like a very more tangible piece because energy work can be non-tangible for many, right?
What I find is that people read, I mean, I know this is actually factual information. People read
Okay.
body language, they read your facial expressions, they read the tone in your voice. And I'm wondering, I don't know if this is in alignment with your work, but I'm wondering if I'm subconsciously reading somebody's body language, am I subconsciously, intuitively receiving information that may make me not want to trust you, not feel comfortable with you, think you're the best thing since sliced bread? Like, were we doing this naturally, intuitively, without knowing it?
Yeah, and I would say that definitely, like we're not separate. So definitely intuitively when we pick up certain things, it can be, like the real what's outside of us is a direct reflection of what's inside of us. So it really
Hmm.
depends, like the context of that situation, whether we're in a session together, because it could be filtered through our own pain and perspectives, as we, may know from NLP, it's how we naturally filter 2 times down. So when I do readings on someone, I definitely, make sure the energy is clear and that, it's a questioning. It opens up the room for, I notice that every time you talk about, your business, or your husband, right? You're touching your nose like this, for example, right? Then it lets me know that they're using their judgment figure onto their personal identity. So knowing
Yeah.
that information, I literally will, dive into deeper questioning and the degree that they're doing that, and then following how their body responds to that as we talk. So that is one way of definitely reading how someone is,
Hmm.
um, how obviously they position their eyes and things like that. I think you probably know this because I know you do some NLP as well,
Yeah.
Holly.
Yeah.
And there's the reading part of it, and then there's the somatic healing, learning how to tune into the subconscious through the
Right.
body and to
Right.
be present with emotions. And then
Hmm.
there's the actual embodiment and alignment in the body. So it's kind of like a three-part process of
Wow,
this
this is quite
process.
fascinating. So
Yeah.
I could learn so much about myself and what my blocks are, what's holding me back through this type of analysis. But how does this play out into what you call energy leadership?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Because I think that a lot of times, like, we hear about energy and we think woo. And there's some
Yeah.
people we talk to. we think about energy and it's like, oh, well, I don't have energy today. They're using it in different contexts. But in
Yeah.
reality, if we think about this, right, like our thoughts literally are synaptic electrical impulses. So actually at that level, it is energy. And when we look at our emotions, it's energy in motion or out of motion. So if we have blocks in our body as we speak of it, oftentimes that's stuck emotions,
Mm,
and so that's, an energy. And when we tune into, information, it's often a thought or a feeling of body sensation. It's coming through like energy as well. And so when we actually look at the face and how energy comes in, and I see that someone's like brows are closer together, um, it's literally showing how the energy flow is being blocked in the body and how their eyes are placed, the amount of blemishing, darknesses that are showing up in certain areas, um, even like little folds in the skin, like where the wrinkles are landing on your face. It literally shows physically if the energy is actually flowing in your body and how is it doing that. And so energy leadership really encompasses almost everything. So this is why, like, to bring spiritual efficiency in, is to bring them all together, like body, mind, heart, soul, and how we're creating that alignment on a regular basis, and to come to a place of self leadership, aligning to who we are through that. Does that make sense, Holly?
yeah, 100%. I love that phrase too, spiritual efficiency. I mean, people love leadership. They love the word efficiency. Everyone is looking for that to create some sort of success in their life that is going to lead to happiness. What are the most challenges that you find with clients that you work with?
Honestly, like maybe it's who I am and who I tend to pull in. I definitely pull in people that um they really care about authenticity, and like they care about leading people, and they care about um making a bigger difference. They have this big heart. And so because of that, often what I see is challenges in the eye emotional zone. This is a very much I'm seeing like patterns in how someone may be, you know, holding like the left side of the face is like actually thinner than the right side. So they're giving a lot of energy, emotional energy to other people, but they're challenged with actually receiving it for themselves. And so a lot of times I'm seeing that they will have all this on the outside. They even like share how they're all these wins, and they're grateful for this, but it's from an energy of trying to get validation. And when I actually, see this pattern happening, and I ask them to actually let it in and to receive, these good things that are happening, I find that that's a very common block. They're so used to giving and nurturing that they don't know how to receive. And I've even, worked with, some healers, very, sharp in their intuition, who are not necessarily in their bodies. Like they come in just enough and then it leaves. And so I'm seeing that as a pattern, because if we don't go deep enough in our body, oftentimes we're not feeling deeply. And if we're restricting so much feeling of negative emotions, we're also restricting the amount of positive emotions we can feel and to let in. And so oftentimes when there's a block in the outside world, it is a place where we don't know how to let it in deeper in our body. And that's often where the trauma comes in as well, like big T, small t, whatever it is, right? And so I'm seeing that as a common denominator, is that when we actually change this deservingness threshold, your threshold of worthiness, and that's when things start to shift. And it doesn't start to shift in one area, it actually shifts in all these various areas, because it's common denominator of why we're actually keeping things out. And so, yeah, and so that's what I'm seeing as a repetitive pattern in a lot of people I work with. And I think this is the piece of like that deeper knowing, self intimacy with ourselves, like letting ourselves be who we are. Like all those pieces can't be connected to in a deeper, intimate way without, changing what's in the way, removing that energy block. Because when we go deeper into inner healing work with inner child and things like that, that inner child could have a mindset, that's stuck, a perspective, right? It could be definitely the emotions and even letting yourself surrender to the emotions. It could be that, past lives, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it just goes expansive and wide. And Holly, I know you get this. But yeah, that's definitely like when I look at it, the common denominator, that is the thing. Very much what played out in my body, how I wanted something, but a part of me was pushing it away. And seeing the reality of what your body shows, it's not a place of judgment, it's a place of like openness and curiosity to say there's more for me here in my body and heart. And
Right.
that's what I love to guide people to.
I have a crazy question. I think some people
Okay.
might be thinking this. So I know when I look at myself, I'm a very overly analytical person when I look at myself. I know the difference. Like I know one eye is smaller than the other. I know one eye is slightly lower than the other. I know one side of my mouth is thinner than the other side. I know one of my hips is higher and lower than the other side. So if you were to analyzed my face and started working with me, would that start to change? Like, would there start to be sort of a balance in my face?
Yeah, actually what happens is I actually just recently did I do before and afters. And so when I start, the first thing I do is a face analysis, inner awakening experience. And I also do a follow-up, after a coaching package. And literally, right, she had smaller eyes. They were actually uneven as well. And this last follow-up session, we did the pictures again, and her eyes evened out their level.
No
Her
way.
irises, yes, her
Wow.
eyes are even in the size of it, but also where it's placed on her face. And her irises were actually off center. So she had a lot of worry and inner conflict. And it's like, like she was like unhappy with her life because she's going through everything. And there's a part of her that like it's hard to put a finger sometimes on things, especially when you're disconnected on it. So the symptom that we see or feel on a daily basis looks very different for everybody, but it's very possible. And I it's not the intention to change ourselves to oh, I need to look better in this way.
No,
It's
I know. I was
really
just curious. Like,
self-love.
wouldn't that be cool if you, like, I know somebody who's got a very stiff gait, like when they walk, there's a stiffness to them. Very open, very loving, very caring person. But I'm wondering if you worked with that person, if they would be able to like loosen up a bit and not walk so stiff, because it does affect his health too, walking stiff like this all the time.
Yes. Yeah, and so I always work with what the intention the person brings.
Yeah.
Obviously, if something is affecting your body that much, that is often where we need to go. And so I haven't worked with someone specifically for that. However, I work with people that express they're really tight in certain areas. And so we know that they're the way they have put things in boxes. They have more challenges with being flexible and to flow with life. And it's caused their body to literally tense and restrict. And sometimes that happens in different joints in our body. And that
Mhm.
speaks to different things with what they're moving through. So if it's
Good.
different on one side than the other side, it's often like, I'm good at doing this for other people or vice versa. I do it for myself, but I'm too afraid to be more visible and go out there and do it in this way. So,
100%.
yeah, so that's what I would say. And I don't doubt that, I could definitely help someone with this in the sense of, also bringing somatic healing in, bringing the body into the healing is super important as well.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, like I said, we could release the emotion, but we're not changing the embodiment, it does cause like a conflict within ourselves.
That makes sense. So, how do you use body analysis and human design to support your clients?
Depending where someone's at with their journey, I love to bring these two together because one has to tell us your personality, how you're showing up right now, what's your degree of connection with your authentic self-leadership, I like to call it. And then there's the place that, okay, well, I know that I'm meant to do more and that, being that chronic conditions what I see is chronic conditions develop when we don't allow ourselves to be ourselves and live our soul's purpose. And so human design provides a energy blueprint, if you will, to really look at, okay, what is the energy of your purpose? What is your energy essence you're meant to bring? Like when I had my reading, I just couldn't believe it highlighted all these pieces. I wouldn't know how to ask the question, but when it was
Yeah.
said to me, it just like I could feel the energy changes. It's like self recognition of our energy essence that's painted so strategically through human design. And for those that don't know what human design is, I mean, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but
Explain.
yeah, it's essentially four spiritual systems, the Kabbalah tree of life, the chakra system, but it's called centers in human design. And we actually move from a seven chakra center to a nine center in human design as we developed to Homo sapiens. And then there's the astrology as part of
Yeah.
human design.
I've
And then
seen
there's
that.
I Ching, yeah, 64 hexagrams, which are aligned with actually our DNA process, 64 of the
Hmm.
DNAs in there. So it's quite interesting. I mean, you do need your time of birth. And so that is something that is important because it's a snapshot literally of when you were born in time and space.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's highlighted to be very accurate. It can explain why some people need to, be in a group environment versus someone that may do better in working in silo and how their gifts are expressed, what gifts are meant for you and what gifts are meant for you to share. So it gets actually quite specific. And that's where, like, because I work with a lot of impact driven, leaders, oftentimes they're looking for how to do 2% better. They're looking at, really how to live out their leadership in an authentic way that is sustainable because they're allowing themselves to be happy and fulfilled in what they're doing. Um, and, honestly, I believe that's the basis of it because why are we doing all of this if we're not happy?
Yeah.
And to really like when we're living in alignment with our energy blueprint and our essence, and again, embodying our authentic energy leadership in this way,
Hmm.
it's just something that it's hard to put words to. I feel like it's a certain self recognition and expansion that happens that yeah, I mean, I guess you could call it soul aligned leadership or something like that, but it feels very deep. And for those that are on that journey of spirituality, right? Um, yeah, and you're wanting to make the bigger difference
Well, if you're a
somehow
truth
in,
seeker, I mean,
yeah.
if you're looking for what your truth is, not what the truth is, but what your truth is. So what kind of success stories can you share with us? Well, how has this helped your clients become, find what their dreams are, their bliss, their happy place?
Yeah, it's very interesting, Holly, because I find that sometimes people come to see me and they can't really put a finger. I just feel drawn to you, Tammy. And someone came to me, and we're in a one-to-one conversation. It's like, yeah, I'm doing really well. Everything's going well. It's just that like I feel like having issues creating space for myself. Like somehow I feel like I need more space. And it's like what unraveled, was, what she realized is that she never connected to the feeling of love and abundance. She was disconnected with her emotions. Like literally her um irises were above the bottom of her eyelids, bottom lid. So she was quite out of her body. And so everything seemed to be working well, but it's because there was a disconnection with herself. And so
Hmm.
we, looked at what was true and real. And, there's definitely a place of vulnerability, of being open and willingness to look deeper beyond what we think we know. And my gift is to drop someone deeper into the body, into their hearts. And this is what we did with her, somatic healing, the deeper emotional healing, seeing herself, developing a new relationship with her inner world.
Hmm.
And that all settled in her head, in her sorry eyes, and the shape of her face changed. So her personality and how she dealt with it, she became more of herself. Before she was, there was like straight lines, and then there was also roundness in different areas. And so she was like rounded out in a shape that was naturally her essence. And her nostrils changed in the sense of how much abundance she was allowing in. She's like, I'm 40 years old and I've never actually felt what love in abundance feels like. And I think we go out there and we forget that a lot of times it's hard to attract and actually receive something that we don't know what it feels like. And
Hmm.
I think we are not necessarily making those connections, but it's like, not only did we double her previous corporate income, right? But she's like, I'm attracting clients that are like care about my authenticity and they're aligned. They value what I do, because
Wow.
she learned how to value herself.
That's
She
a
learned
great
how to
story.
open and receive. Yeah. So I just love this client because we have like so much, alignment in our values. And I was it's such a blessing to walk people on this journey, back to ourselves.
Yeah, I bet that is. It is. I know in my job it's the same thing. Like some of my clients I've known for 8, 9, 10 years, and some of them will reach out to me just personally to give me, look at this picture of me and my son, or look at this picture of me here, because they know that I've been walking the journey with them, and they just think like, oh, Holly would like to see this. Oh, I like
Oh,
that when we can see the beginning and see the process of it, and then
yes.
see those monumental stages that we're all trying to reach, and you get to work with clients like that. It's the best job, really, to be able to do that. Like I know I think everyone should contact you and just even get an idea of what you do. Do you offer a meet and greet or anything that's mini just to get to know what you do? Can someone just like send you a fee and send you a picture and start from there? Can they do that from your website?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely, just reach out to Tammy at Path to the Heart. I will jump on a connection call if you want to just like connect and get to know, tell me where you're at. I also have actually a 5-part video series where you could actually, I'll walk you through how to take the pictures and to see, where your places of leadership and capacities, and also where you are on that journey of authentic leadership with your inner and outer face.
Nice.
Because yeah, we can't change if we're not really looking at the truth. And so
Yeah.
that's my gift I love to offer the audience today.
Can you give anybody advice? Like, could they look in the mirror right now and look at something if something's off? And could you give them advice of what that might mean? What they might be wanting to look at closer if they have, I don't know, their eyes or if their left eye. So let's say like mine is I think it's my left eye is off, than my right eye. Is that significant that it's left rather than the
Yeah,
right
yeah.
one?
So yeah, definitely, Holly, if your, left eye is the private face, the inner world,
Smaller, and
the left side
sometimes
of the
it kind
eye.
of is half closed when I'm smiling.
Yeah, and so when generally if that's happening, it's definitely a place where there's inner sensitivity. It's like it's more comfortable for you to maybe, share the um, you know, what you feel and everything to the outer world. But when it comes to yourself, that may be a area to sort of tap into a little deeper
Hmm.
on journeying within. And because, even with myself, I notice I will go through stages where my left eye is smaller and then it opens up. And so it is a bit of an evolution of knowing when we need to go deeper in to reinvent, to re-explore, rediscover whatever that is, and then
Hmm.
opening up to a new evolution of ourselves. But the pattern of closing your eye a little bit definitely is that, like, yeah, it's this little part of yourself that may be a little fearful of like fully being seen in your inner world for who you are. It's just the sensitivity around that. And to answer your question is that, when I start reading, I always ask someone, like, before we even start, look at this picture, when you're taking the picture for me, even, right? Like, what parts do you find you're judging? Which parts do you find that you love?
Hmm.
Are there any parts that you love? Right.
Right.
Because these kind of initial reactions that, we're like, oh, I hate how my nose looks, or I can't stand my eyebrows are not like at the end. And so those are the pieces. And it's hard because, someone might have a different reaction to different parts of their face for me to share here. But
Mhm.
definitely tap into the 5-part series. If there's something that jumps out at you, I'm happy to, jump on a connection call and we could like, talk about that a little bit, dive a little deeper to see where, you might need to go within yourself
Mm,
to start you on that journey. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
yeah.
I love it. So what are other things like, I don't know, a smaller lip than the bottom, or can you give us a couple examples of different body parts that mean what it means?
Yeah, like because I had a client that essentially she had a thinner upper lip, and definitely speaks to a place of her comfort with actually speaking about more intimate parts of herself, and that was affecting her relationships, but also the amount of creativity she was able to express. And so when we did the face reading and discovered all these pieces, it literally, like in that week, her lip opened up in the sense of there's more circulation there and it got more red. So she, in that week, it's like she was able to download her whole retreat because the amount of
Mhm.
creativity opened up for her, and we were able to connect that to other parts of her face where there was a lack of nurturance. And so these places of our lips has a lot to expression of our within ourselves in our inner outer world.
Yeah,
And when we could like link in different pieces together, then we bring the puzzle together. And it's not the intellectual knowing as it is to actually allow yourself to feel and be with it. And so the lips, yeah, very much speaking the upper lip, like speaking to the intimacy within ourselves, being able to speak up for that.
that's
Um,
interesting. I'd noticed that there's a family dynamic too. I don't know if you find this, but like in my smile, for instance, I have like a normal smile, I think. But every once in a while I can see that I purse on one side, and I know my cousins, I have cousins that do that almost every time they smile. They have this purse on the one side. So do you find that there could be a family dynamic there where there's a lineage or some kind of generational trauma or personality trait that I might be doing every once in a while that is comes from my lineage? Do you see this in any other clients?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like there's patterns that carry forth. I mean, when we look at numerology, we can actually see where our, I do only specific to the body, right? But it highlights what we're meant to learn in this lifetime, and it speaks to certain parts of our face. And we see the number show up again and again, and repetitive patterns that show up in the body, in the face. So definitely, oftentimes there's some connection with the energy of secrecy around that. So for that, specifically with the pursing side of things. But yeah, we could definitely look a little deeper into those kind of things. But there's definitely patterns. Like we already know that trauma can be passed down generation to generation.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise, and it's just bringing consciousness to it.
So you're es essentially you're saying that when we work through this and we recognize these body triggers or signals, that it will help us find leadership and success.
Well, I see it this way is that, you know, until we bring the unconscious to the conscious, we will allow it to run our lives and we will call it fate. Carl Jung, that's a quote from Carl Jung. And I really love that because we already know, 95% of our communication is subconscious, it's running our life. And yet, if we only lead from the conscious and we're not tapping into the body, which is the subconscious, like how much are we actually leading our lives?
Yeah.
And it really is coming back to that truth again and again, like, and to really, it's not just the face and how we look, maybe, as it's also being able to feel our bodies and sensations that come up on a regular basis, and the feelings that are associated with that. Like when we're running away from, these things, trying to fix and take a Tylenol or take a supplement to get rid of it and to fix ourselves so we could keep on going with the life versus
Mhm.
looking at our inner truths. Like how much are we actually leading our lives? How much empowerment is that?
Yeah.
And so that's why I call myself a self-love and authentic leadership, energy leadership coach, right? Is that, you could do all the things, but if you're not shifting this dynamic of our level of deservingness, you can't see it.
Yeah.
And so it really isn't the energy of fixing and, doing better or doing it faster, whatever that is. It's learning to slow down and develop the presence. And what I believe is that the new productivity is alignment. Alignment is productivity. And when we could come back into our inner world and create presence in our life, that is where power is birthed. And so, these are some important pieces. I think when we're busy,
Yeah.
going about things, we're just not connecting to these crucial pieces that actually bring us joy and fulfillment.
You
Yeah,
make a
go
very
ahead.
good point there because our bodies are speaking to us all the time, internally, externally, as you are mentioning, and we're not listening. We're not. We're not even in tuned with our bodies. It's a language. It's an intuition. There's red flags. It's trying to talk to you and you're not paying attention. If we paid attention early enough, we would be able to get rid of some of those blocks and not let them pile up.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like until, it's just like someone in an abusive relationship, they don't leave it until something shifts, something that their
Sometimes,
worthiness
yeah, has
level,
to get pretty bad.
you know? Yeah, where it's over and above what they feel they actually deserve subconsciously. They're not saying this out loud,
Yeah.
and sometimes we don't do anything until something doesn't work, until it's bad enough.
Yeah.
But what if we actually lead ourselves to continuously like learn to really love ourselves and have that compassion, acceptance, and reverence, for who we are? Like that is who we are. Like, you know, and it's like, I don't know, it's just a gift to learn that and to learn that I truly believe I am love. Like, I'm so grateful to remember who I really am and to put this work out there and to remind others. Um, so yeah, it's why we're all
Well,
here to remember who we are and to spread who we are.
absolutely, because we get distracted. This world is full of distractions. I'm going to say something that I know any of my friends that are watching this will say, Holly, you're living in your utopian world again. But in my utopian world, I believe that I should be able to go to my doctors or whatever practitioner I go to, and I might have like, I don't know, a sore shoulder that's just nagging at me and won't go away. I would love my doctor to say, okay, you're going to go to physiotherapy. If it's that painful, I'll give you something temporary for the pain. But I want you to work on why you're having this pain, what's holding you back, what trauma is going on, what are you afraid of, what's working and not working in your life. And I want you to go see Tammy Cho to figure that out. Like we should be living in a world where this is acceptable. That my doctor actually did that with an illness that I had a while back, and he said this is trauma from your childhood, and you need to work on that too. I can do this and I can do that, and but you need rest and you need to work on your childhood trauma. And he believed like how long I probably have had it since an illness I had when I was in my 20s as well. He's like, yep, that one was probably from childhood trauma too. But this is very, very rare. And you used to work in the medical industry. You're still very attached to it. Can you see a future where this could be a thing?
Yeah, and it's so interesting, and I know this, Holly, is that I've been called back to going back to nursing, part time into, likely a leadership position, and I do feel that there's a part of me that I am bringing that because I saw another nurse that is like looking at the client's chart and seeing that they have like they were breaking their ankles regularly. And how efficient would it be as a nurse to like be able to pick up that's about like, they need support and they lack nurturance. That's what
Yeah,
that client emotionally needs. And to be able to serve someone in a way like with this information, like I think it's really crucial.
yeah,
I mean, I think I'm here for a reason.
yeah.
I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring this empowerment piece of
And you
in
were in the
because like
medical industry for a reason. This is all part of the puzzle.
yeah, yeah. And so yeah, I'm not sure what it all looks like, but definitely if there is the opening there, I'm there. And
You're
yeah,
going to join my
it's
utopian world?
well, no, I think a lot more. I've been meeting more health professionals and people that are like our healthcare system needs a change, and we need more of us to get in there and to break down more walls. And in my human design, like 75% of my energy is to develop a deeper intimacy, the world to break down barriers to connection and things like that. And
Yeah.
the body is one of the best ways to do that, I believe. And
Yeah.
so. Yeah, it's exciting. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm definitely I'm ready to spread more love in the way through my gifts, educating, leading, all those wonderful, beautiful things. So
Thank you so much for sharing this moment with me and teaching me more about what you do than I already knew. So I'm pleasantly surprised by that. In fact, we might talk. I think I want to, well, we can do some swapping or I'll pay you, you pay, I don't mind at all. I think this is fascinating. I think it's well worth it. I mean, we already know that. I think it's kind of more common knowledge now that, liver holds anger and, the gut holds emotional imbalance and the back is about not, standing up or standing firm for your beliefs and things like that. But I believe we don't know all that you've shared, how every little nuance is something that we can read. I think anyone who wants to feel self-love and self-empowerment, whether you're wanting to be the CEO of a company or you want to quit your mainstream job and start your own business or you just want to be a great mom or just a great dad or just a great person inside, this is something they should reach out and at least have an introduction type meeting with you. So once again, can you let people know how they can get in contact with you if there's any material that you have that they should take a look at and your website?
yeah, if you just go to one page, Path to the Heart, exactly how it sounds, Path to the Heart, like you're walking on a path to the heart.com, and then just /links. And it'll bring you to, booking a call, getting how to get a reading, the 5-part video series, my podcast, connecting me on socials. All those pieces are there.
Great.
Um, yeah, so that's
That's
how you can get
great.
out of me.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing this with my audience, and I'm sure they'll be intrigued to take a look at what you do. Thank you, everyone else, for sharing this time with us. Namaste.